What's up? What's good? Matt Clark here, the new Matt Clark. How are each and every one of you doing on this amazing Saturday? I'm doing great. My girl's doing great. My family's doing great. Hope each and every one of you are doing great, and I hope you're having a great weekend, like a beautiful weekend it is where I am. So I hope you guys are experiencing the same. If you could please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button to get all of my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that'd be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of most of my videos. So what's up? How y'all doing? Saturday it is. Now we've been talking a lot about prison lately, but let's go back to addiction. It's important we don't forget these things, but I don't want to get all emotional and all serious talking about addiction. So we're going to keep it lighthearted today, and we're going to do a top 7 list. And what is that list? The top 7 worst addictions you can have, my opinion. Now take it from me. I am a poly addict. I have been addicted to many things in my life. I have an addictive personality, and it really doesn't matter what it is. It could be heroin, or it could be ice cream. I could have just a problem controlling myself at times, and I don't know why that is, why I specifically have such a hard time dealing with certain things when it comes to addiction, but you know, I guess that's just who I am. That's the way that I am designed, and that's something that I'm going to have to fight for the rest of my life. But addiction is something that needs to be talked about. It's something that kills people every single day, and I'm not just talking about drug addiction. So let's get into it. The 7 worst addictions that you can have, and you might be surprised by this list. The number 7 worst addiction you can have. Now keep in mind, these are my opinion. This is how I would rank it. I'm sure many people would rank it completely differently. This is for me. So number 7 is cocaine addiction. Now it is a very serious addiction, and it's very easy to get caught up. Whether you're doing soft or you're doing hard, it doesn't really matter if you're using intravenously, if you're sniffing, if you're smoking, it really doesn't matter. It could be a fast process or a slow process. If you're just sniffing powder, then you could probably get away with using it casually, right? But not everybody can. There's a lot of people that just sniffing powder, they get out of control. And guess who is one of those people? Because I have zero control over myself when it comes to chemical drugs. I don't think it would matter what the drug is. If I was using it, I'm most likely going to be abusing it if it's a chemical. That's just how my mind works. Just how I'm hardwired. It sucks. It does. But if you see a lot of cocaine addicts, it can get really rough chasing that the ringer that you can get from smoking it, or the rush you can get from intravenous use. It can be invigorating. It can be amazing. But guess what else cocaine can be? It can be terrifying, and it can take you to the low of the low. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen an OD from it. It's real bad, man. It's like a seizure, blood blowing out, blood just pouring out. No, I'm just kidding. But you probably will have a seizure, and you're probably going to be coughing up some blood or whatever. And it's rough. It's not like number 4 where you kind of, and you shut off, right? It's not like that. It's a much more painful overdose and dangerous nonetheless. And you could have a heart attack. You know, I've used cocaine, and to the point where my heart is just like, boom, boom, out of my chest. So it can be bad. But for me, I was always able to stay away from it if I just broke the seal. Like if I could stay away from it for 4 or 5 days and not use any of it, and then distance myself from anybody doing it, I could actually stay away from the cocaine. Now, there's always a point in my addiction where there's no returning. There's the point of no return. So keep that in mind. A lot of the time, I probably could have stopped. I just decided because of other things like heroin that I was just going all in. Okay, so number 7 worst addiction is cocaine. There's a lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people been hurt, robbed, attacked, killed over money and drugs, the cartels, the borders. Like, it's bad, cocaine. But for me, number 7 on the list. Now, the number 6 worst addiction on my list is meth. Now, meth has a life expectancy of 5 to 7 years. It's not a very long time. I know some people who've been doing it that long, and believe me, they may not be dead, but they're definitely not the same. To me, of all the hard drugs, it has the most diabolical impact on the mind. I feel like a lot of people, even if they come off it, their mind is scattered. They can't hold sentences together or complete a sentence. Just run on sentence after run on sentence after run on sentence. Paranoia, hallucinations. After 1 or 2 uses, there's the ability to unlock some hidden psychological things that maybe you have genetically, like schizophrenia, that maybe wouldn't have been triggered if you weren't using that meth. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not sure that that's absolutely correct, but in my mind, it makes perfect sense, right? That it could definitely set off a psychological snap or put you into psychosis. I've seen it happen many times where there is no return. So for me, crystal meth, methamphetamines, is the number 6 worst addiction on my list. Now, it makes people damn right crazy and scary and dangerous. Somebody on a crazy meth binge, sometimes they can go all out and they are going to be jacked to the hilts on adrenaline if they got their dope. So, meth, number 6. The number 5 worst addiction on my list is food. A lot of people have an addiction to food. Obesity is the number 1 cause of death in the United States of America, and I'm sure it's not far behind in Canada. I don't know if it's the type of food that we're eating. I don't know what it is, but food is a diabolical addiction because food you see every day and you need it to live. It sustains you. So if this triggers your addictive personality and this is something you just want to overindulge in, you know that's bad for you, but every day you gotta take a little bit. Like for me, for instance, like I was a junkie, right? I was into the number 4, right? I couldn't imagine quitting, but yet 3 times a day having to, smoke a tiny little bit or look at it or get smacked in the face with it. You know what I mean? It's not reasonable. And I could see how difficult that could be for somebody who's maybe suffering from some mental health issues or whatever it is. So number 5 on my list is food. Man, you smell it everywhere you go. Like you're standing beside a goddamn cookie factory. It smells amazing. I don't stand on the street and start getting blasted with the smell of number 4 or number 3. That doesn't happen to me. So I'm empathetic towards people who have an addiction towards food. I've been around people and have people in my family that suffer from weight issues and lost their lives because of their eating habits and stuff like that. And it's sad to watch. And it's crazy to understand how somebody could eat themselves to death, basically. But when I used the other things that I did during my addiction, I can understand. If you feel that way about that as I feel about that, then it makes perfect sense to me. I didn't have a level of control where I cared if I lived or died. I wanted what I want. I wanted that instant gratification, right? So, food is the number 5 worst addiction you can have on my list. Now, the number 4 worst addiction you can have, and this is my DOC, my main issue, opioids. They are all time consuming. You know, it becomes a lifestyle. You're not just using, you're in the lifestyle because you have to be, right? You have to be able to maintain your addiction without getting sick. So it's like a never-ending chase, even when you don't have money, and it is a miserable and lonely and a humiliating existence. You know, when you're at a point in your life where you're begging people, or you're chasing people around asking for spots, or you're thinking about doing grimy things to people that you know because of your addiction, it's crazy. Now, you know, I was always somebody who was able to make money illegally without hurting people, but I would always land in prison. And believe me, number 4, aka heroin, is the main reason for my last bit. I was deep. I was into intravenous using. I had just down to this tiny little weight. And I was waking up every morning feeling like I had the flu. And that is what you feel like. You literally wake up every day like, and hopefully you have something there to get you up, get you going so you can go make your money. And I was dumb. You know, I never even thought about going on methadone or Suboxone. Never even crossed my mind. You know, I would just try to get sober, fall back into addiction, try to get sober and relapse, and basically tortured myself and everybody around me for years and years and years. You know, all hard drugs can make a person untrustworthy. You know, if you're backed into a corner with your addiction is your number 1 priority. And I'm not saying that your addiction can make you turn into a snitch. You're a snitch, you're a snitch. I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to make you turn into a bad person. But what it could do is make you act out in desperation, which can lead to horrific things. You know, it really can. So, number 4 on my list is heroin, man. It is a demonic addiction. It just takes you, man. It just grabs a hold of you. And it's basically like you're possessed by it. Every day you're just walking around thinking about it, looking for more, right? That is your goal. It is all encompassing. You're hanging around with people you don't want to hang around with just because they know people that can get it at a better price, and you're playing with your life every time because you don't know who's putting fentanyl or any of this stuff in it. It is an extremely dangerous lifestyle. And many, many people around me lost their lives. I was a smart addict, if you could believe that, despite the fact that I spent half of my life in jail for not being smart. I just knew that I had to sample everything before I did. I was always clean with what I was doing. I didn't share needles and things like that. And by the grace of whoever is my higher power, I'm here. I'm here. So it can be beat. And that is why it is number 4 on my list. Because if you stay away from it, if you get away from it, and there is harm reduction, right? There is OST, so methadone or Suboxone, that although are similar in addiction, right? It is a much more controlled and safer way to take your addiction and control your addiction. And for someone like me, who for 20 years tried to do it on my own, just quit, and I just end up back in jail. devil's advocate, I would rather take this 1-2 pills every morning under my tongue and be able to function in society, than be smacking needles, catching abscesses. Number 4, opioids. Now, the number 3 worst addiction you can have: social media, clout. Those 2 things, the internet, those 3 things. Man, what you see nowadays is crazy. It's unbelievable, the level of cruelty and harshness and the comfort people feel behind a screen, man. It's crazy to me, the things people say to each other and the way that social media just fucks everybody's reality up. Like, the problem is not everybody is all that aware. And when they are on social media, they believe that this shit is real, that this is how these people are actually living. They don't understand that people only are posting their best parts of their lives. They're not posting the sadness. They're not posting the blackout drunkenness, pissing themselves. They're not posting all that crap. And they create this fake reality that they're living this perfect life. And it makes people that are young, coming up, that see this, they believe this is how you must live. And that it's crazy, this unachievable reality that people think is going on. I shut myself off from social media. I don't think it's good for your mind. I think it's constantly like indoctrinating you, constantly trying to get you to buy shit, constantly trying to manipulate you to believe in this ideology or this ideology. It's trying to control you through that screen, and I know it. That's why I shut it off. That's why I'm rarely on social media. I don't trust it. So number 3, clout. Social media. Just think about all the violence, people standing over top with a cell phone rather than helping people, car accidents. It's a hell of a drug, man. Look at drill. Look at the whole drill music thing. It is now basically all gone online, and it's crazy. Stay the fuck away from it. Number 3, clout, social media, internet. The number 2 worst addiction that you can have, it's got to be alcohol. It has to be. It is in your face all the time. Everybody does it. It's socially accepted. And most people, if they're going out to have fun, going out for dinner, going to a party, whatever it is that they do in their social lives, people are drinking. So if you are a person that has, for an extended period of time, you have a friend group, they all drink, they all party, and alcohol becomes a problem for you, but for none of the rest of them, right? Your whole life starts going downhill. You realize you got to change. Now you have to change that whole friend group, right? But does that make a difference? Because then you're going to walk down the street past 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar. You're going to turn on the TV. You're going to see ads in the Super Bowl. You're going to see ads in the UFC. Hockey, baseball, whatever it is that you're watching, commercials, beer, wine, beer, this, that, this. It must be a crazy thing to deal with. Now, I can drink. Alcohol has never made me fiend. It's never made me feel that way. I've never felt the need to blackout drunk, blah, except for maybe when I was young. But I've seen alcohol destroy people, kill people, rip families apart. Close up and personal. So for me, number 2 worst addiction you can have, alcohol. Now, the worst addiction that you can have should be obvious because I haven't mentioned it yet. It's cigarettes. It's cigarettes. if it is the number one stupidest addiction in the world. You are paying money to kill yourself. You are giving thousands and thousands of dollars every year to kill yourself. And not only are you doing that, you're also guaranteeing that you're going to be a future burden on the system, the healthcare system, when you're older. And you can almost guarantee, if you smoke without quitting, that your death is probably not going to be an enjoyable one or a peaceful one. Like my grandfather died from lung cancer, and apparently only this much of his lungs were not cancer in the final x-ray, and the day before his lungs were clear. So it all over his lungs, right? And when he was dying, he was bouncing off the hospital bed trying to grasp for air. And it made my mother quit smoking on the spot. A horrific thing to see. It's something like 40 or 45,000 people die each year because of smoking. Cigarette prices go up. It's paying more and more and more and more to fucking kill myself. Like, I'm doing it. It's so dumb, but it's so fucking hard to quit. I don't get it. I don't get it. I have quit everything else. Smoking, you could take it away from me for 6 months. It just makes me fiend, man. And I fucking hate it. I do. I hate smoking. It pisses me off every single day. I want to stop. But guess what? The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I don't even think about it. No, well, not the first thing, because I got to go outside and brush my teeth and all that first. But you know what I mean. It's horrible. And it is the number one worst addiction that you can have. Smoking, you quit. Sure, your lungs are going to get better, but you smell it, you see it. Now, there is a good thing. Smoking seems to be off trend. So hopefully somebody, some higher up decides one day, get this shit off the market and just makes it easy for me and makes it not available. It's terrible. You feel smoked out. My lungs can hurt some days. It can give you headaches if you smoke too much. Like, it's not good. And you know what told me smoking was horrible? I know this, it's rich to say this, but when I used to do number 4, the head on, the minute I'd take a drag off a cigarette, I'd throw up. And that's just telling me that it is poison. If I can do the hair on, I'm not throwing up, but one drag of the cigarette tells me it is poison, and we all know it is. Formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, tar, and many carcinogens to follow up with that. Obviously, I share my stories with you guys so you don't have to go through these things yourselves. If I could snap my finger, nobody has any addictions, that is what I would do. But that's not a reality. In 2022, it is crazy out here. Fentanyl is tearing people down, and all the other drugs are following it up. Now, my idea would be to legalize it, or at least decriminalize it at the very least. But if you legalize it, right, you produce it, you sell it controlled legally, you get and tax-free, you get the illegal market out of there, you get all the fentanyl mixings and deaths out of there, you open up a whole shit ton of safe injection sites, and you just get rid of all the hate and the judgment that comes with being an addict. You know, there's things you can do. Look at Portugal. Look at Switzerland and what they've done there. And I've talked about these things on the channel before. There are things you can do to improve the opportunities and chances for these people who are dying one by one by one by one by one. Now, of course, heroin is the number one if you're looking at it in terms of how many people die from it. This was my list in terms of what would be the hardest to quit and get away from, in my opinion. So, if you're addicted to any of this stuff, look at me, okay? I am not perfect. I still smoke weed. I still drink the occasional beer, and I am on Suboxone. But you know what I am? I'm not in prison. I spent my whole goddamn life in prison. As soon as I stopped the hard drugs, guess what? Here I am. I'm on the street. It's not worth it. Addiction is not worth it as a whole. There are some runner-ups for sure. You have gambling, you have sex, there's many things, right? Just understand health, wellness, prosperity, progress, success is what you want. You got to work hard for it. And the one thing I can guarantee, if you prioritize any of these addictions, there's not going to be fuck all for you in the rest of your life. Now, food is the one that might not be the case. And maybe, just maybe, you could be successful and be addicted to food. But pretty much the rest of them, if you let them take over your life, and food too, right? You're fucked. You are. So don't set yourself up. Balance. A healthy balance. Love each and every one of you. The new Mac.